NFL, man, that's an interesting monster. Because the NFL is this thing where I didn't actually try to get into the NFL. Most people, that's the wrong way to say it. I did once I realized I wanted to, but I wasn't growing up like I want to be in the NFL like a lot of people are. I just
Mm,
grew up like, man, I want to not be in foster care. I want to do whatever the next thing I'm supposed to do is. And at one point, the next thing was the NFL. So when I got into college, man, I was a guy who came in, undersized, not a big name, just a dude, and I had to try to find a way to earn a spot on a Division I football team, the University of Oregon. Right, that's a big deal.
Welcome back to the Believe in Yourself podcast. Today's guest is a former pro NFL linebacker with the Buccaneers, Redskins, and Steelers, now turned best-selling author, international speaker, entrepreneur, and American Ninja Warrior. He is known for being the incredible global shift coach as he uses his superpower to navigate life's shifts, both good and bad, with grace and optimism, whilst focusing on helping people to find out who they are and to develop who they want to be. Please welcome to the Believe in Yourself podcast, Anthony Trucks.
Hey, yo, man, nice intro. I appreciate you, bro.
No problem at all. More than welcome. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing right now?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I'm at this. I'm at a pool. I'm at a hotel pool on a family road trip across the country. So I'm in Mobile, Alabama, hanging out this morning with you.
Awesome. Well, I feel really privileged and honored to have you on the show today. I'm really looking forward to getting in to find out a little bit more about you and also some of the
Yeah.
amazing messages that I've heard you talk about previously. So to start off this episode, I'd love to find out a little bit more about your childhood, growing up as a young person and really your early life.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'll go to the roots of it. So I grew up in foster care. So at 3 years old, I was given away by my mom, me and my three siblings in a foster care, which essentially it's a system where it was not designed to take care of us kids at that time. It's a little bit better now, as far as I've heard. But man, back then I was just I was not treated well. I was beaten by some people. I was starved by some people. I was tortured by some people. Man, it just wasn't a really good experience. It was a really bad one, to be honest. So at 6 years old, I'd gone through a system with like 5 different houses, which were all just not all. It might have been one or two, but a lot of them just tormented me. And I ended up in my family, which is my family now. And the unique thing is I'm the only black person in an all-white family. So there was that dynamic. We were really poor growing up, so we didn't have much. It was like I at one point, if I like needed new shoes, I had to try to like hang on. I had these Nike Cortez, they used to call them, but they still make them. And there was a time when we couldn't afford new shoes, so I got holes in the shoes. I would lace them closed with paper clips just so my sock wouldn't come off the side. So we didn't grow up with much, man. And that was my upbringing. The crazy thing is even though I wasn't fully adopted yet, I was still in foster care up until 14. So my real mom, who lives, I don't know where she lived, had what's called parental rights. So she could say what I couldn't do, even though she didn't live in the house. And so with parental rights, like it threw me for a loop. So I had like a house with two rule sets. And so, yeah, for a lot of years, man, up till 14, I had a lot of lack of stability. Didn't feel like I fit. And it's crazy. If you're a person, anybody listening right now who's been in a place where you lack stability or any kind of trust in a situation, it's difficult. Because you go through your day, all day, every day, having no idea, like, should I work towards this? Is it going to work out? Is it going to be here? Like, when things get good, you get scared when things get good because what if they get taken away? And so that was my upbringing, man. For a lot of years, I was 14. And then yeah, at 14, I got adopted, which was cool. I mean, I felt like for the first time I have this house that I know where I woke up, I get to go to bed tonight. Like that was my first time knowing this is my house, 100%. I'm going to bed here. And then difficult things set in because that's how life happens. My adoptive mom gets diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune disease. My older brother, who's like the rock of my family, like me, goes out to the military. And I'm one of six, so like I'm the oldest. I tried football for the first time because, you want to go try something new because I couldn't play before because of my real mom. So I go play football for the first time and I'm horrible. So, I mean, 15 minutes, I checked out. Like I legit checked out, which a lot of people do. When things get hard, like when you're trying to do something new and it's not working well, we'll call it, and things aren't going the way you planned, a lot of people decide to do the thing, which, man, I did, and I'm glad I reversed it. But it's a decision to like, how do I find a way to make an excuse to be able to not have to do this anymore? So how do we make an excuse to be able to chalk it up, to essentially give up? And that was what I did, man. I did that early on.
You talk there about finding stability, and I think that must be especially hard with a young person when you're not able to control a lot, because usually you're used to your parents or your family controlling that. And where did you find that stability as a young person?
Man, I found it. My family, we loved, like my mom loved, like she's a real good human, right? We weren't very successful as a we'll call it a family, right? My mom and dad both barely graduated high school. I don't think my mom actually graduated high school. She had to get her GED later. My dad, when she met him when he was 20 years old, and she had us 3 kids. So when he was 20, I was, I was 8. Yeah, because he's only 12 years older than me. My dad's, he's not very, so we had dynamics of, there wasn't much stability, but there was love. And so essentially, man, I think sports for me at a young age gave me that anchor. Like that was the thing. It gave me some sort of structure that I needed to be able to stay out of trouble, have a reason to show up every day and do well, right? That was the thing that a lot of people at a young age don't have, but that stability or put themselves in a position to have something that they will be good for, or they will try to be better for. And that was it, man. Sports was one of the early anchors for me.
So talk me through that very first involvement that you had with sports, that first session, or that first time you got in contact, or the first time you got active.
Yeah, first time I played, man. So we were poor, like I talked about before, but I had a paper route. I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. I'd like to make my own money, do my own thing. It's me. And so, yeah, I got to this point where I wanted to play football, so I had to pay my own way. Like my first year of football, I paid for football, and I didn't have much money, so I scrounged dollars up for my paper route. I bought cleats, actually. I bought some cleats, and the interesting part about the cleats, they were like 2 sizes too big, but they were on special. They were Nike Sharks, and they were special. So what I did is I got this toilet paper and rolled it around, and then I taped Scotch tape around it, and I cut it in the shape of toes. And I would shove that into the front of the cleats, and that's how I would play. So I would put my toe in there, would fill up the space enough for me to do my thing. But yeah, it was interesting running around like clown shoes, and then I would go out there, and I was bad, horrible, like really not good at the sport. That was the thing. I loved the idea of it, right? I loved the outlet of being able to hit people and tackle people, but man, it was not something I was capable of doing well in comparison to my teammates. Because some of those kids, they started at like 7, 8 years old, so they've already got 4 to 6 years on me. So I'm coming in here late to the game, and I was getting tossed around. And at one point, I after 2 years playing, a year before high school, then freshman year of high school, I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not doing anything. I legitimately checked out. I was like, I'm not going to play football because I suck, and I'm done.
So was that you kind of going back to kind of your old self who talked about just then with saying now you'd always found excuses not to do things? Is that you kind of falling back into those old habits?
Well, no, it was old habit. That was the first, that was actually the first instance I had with that habit. Like, if you think about it, I hadn't been exposed to much where I had to stick into it, but that was the first time. And I didn't stay out of it, right? That's the thing. Obviously, I played in the NFL, so I didn't stay out of it for long. It was actually an interesting thing. So around this time, I'm 15 years old. My mom's sick. My brother's off in the military. I'm floating around. And what ends up happening is I'm in this class, Mr. Howell's English class. And there's 2 girls that are talking to the side of me. I'm in the back right corner. I used to bring this black parka and cover my head up because I didn't really want, I didn't want to pay attention to anything. And I was checked out. And these 2 girls are talking, and they give me a really special gift that I wish everybody gets an opportunity to hear and to have in their life. And the gift was this. She says, and I quote, "The reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care." And it wasn't really a big thing. If you hear that, like it's here, you're kind of like, all right, man, what does that even mean? And here's the thing. That was the excuse I was making as to why I was giving up. That was it. And when you get the gift of hearing your excuse out loud, it shakes you, man, because you realize how stupid it sounds. Like, I'm gonna be a bad dad essentially because I knew, like, not many good foster dads. There's no examples of good foster adults. There's not many out there. So I was pretty much like relegated to a situation of like, all right, it's gonna be my world. And these girls, man, they had a conversation. They even woke me up. I was like, man, I don't want to be that. That is not the guy that I think I need to be in my life, but for the future, for my children, or for my husband. My wife having a husband, that's a good dude. So what I did is I had this choice, a very visceral feeling of a choice that said, you're going to be great. And I did not know what great is. No 15-year-old knows what great is. My son's 15 now. He doesn't know what great is. He's just hanging around. Maybe he thinks his dad is great. Probably not, because he's my son. So anyways, like I'm gonna be great. So I sold out to be great, man. Like I was like, I'm gonna lift every weight I can. Like if this is for football, I'm gonna catch every football I can catch every day. I caught 500 footballs a day on purpose, just so I could have that sense of like I knew what I was doing. And man, it changed everything for my life. So I came back the next year after a whole off season of doing this, and I was a monster, dude. Like I was an animal, dude. Like you weren't touching me, you weren't gonna catch a football over me, and I was gonna catch everything thrown at me. You were not gonna tackle me, and I was gonna tackle you. Like that was just how it was gonna be. And if you didn't have you didn't do the work. You didn't have the right to take any of this from me. I own this. I did the work. This is for me, not for you. And it was a different kind of hunger and anger that I came back with. And it changed my life, man, because at that moment, I had this sense of identity that no one was stealing from me. And this is what I try to teach my clients now, because in the work of what I do is like I help people upgrade their identity, which is what I did at this time. And the upgrading of identity is not like, I feel better, I got a better mindset. It's a sense of like, who are you to your core? Where when the world wants to push you down, that you will stand up and fight for yourself. What have you done that you're protecting? And most people don't do the work to protect. They want to be like, I deserve this. But deep down, they don't deserve it. They know it. Their heart knows it. And that was the thing that I instilled in myself. And it's a process, which it pretty much boils down to one statement. And the statement is, what you create creates you. And so for me, what I tell people is like, when I went through that process, when I'm going, imagine you're going through a process of lifting every day and running every day, and you don't just create this faster body for yourself. You don't just create this stronger muscles and better hands. You create a confident human being who has stronger muscles and stronger hands. You're creating a different monster inside. So that's why what you create creates you, because the creation process is ugly. Like for anybody who's gone through the creation of anything, like imagine Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel, or creating a first car, or creating a relationship that's great. It's an ugly process, man. You go through the ups, to the downs, to the ebbs and the flows. But when you get to the back end and you accomplish, you're like, woo, I feel good about myself. And you will protect that. You will stand up for that. You will show up for that. And that's what I do in my life now when I teach people. And that was the first catalyst to it. It progressed me on to a college scholarship and playing in the NFL eventually. Had a kid at 20 years old, married my high school sweetheart. Like, these were all possible things because I decided, and then I followed up with actions, and I created a different person inside.
There's one key word there that I took away from that, and that was the word action, because I think it's what separates people from doing what they've always wanted to, and people who are always stuck in the same loop and don't do things. And I think so many people say they want something, they want to be great, they want to, play in the NFL, they want to do all these amazing things in their life, but the things that separates them is that action piece, because that's the bit where they often fall short on. So when it comes to action, where's the best place for people to start?
Yeah, there's a statement that I like. It's action ends suffering. Because if you have a suffering of any kind, and to me, there's obviously real acts like suffering. Like if I'm actually suffering in pain, the action of putting ointment on could stop it. There's got to be an action. Or if it's an action, if I'm suffering inside because I don't like myself, you're not going to all of a sudden wake up one day and say, "Oh, I like myself now," right? Yeah, the first thing. So if you're in a place where you need to take action, the first thing you do is honestly, most people say take a big action role, but I think the big action is scary for a lot of people. It just is. And so essentially what I look at is it's not about taking the big one, it's about taking the consistent one. And the consistent one isn't a humongous, large, like crazy one. It's one that it's simplistic, man. It's not going to be anything that throws you like crazy. It's going to be the one that's like, all right, I'm going to start this and never stop doing it. And it doesn't have to be a hard, large thing. Maybe it's like, maybe it's just like, I get up in the morning and I want to brush my teeth. That's a consistent action. That's a basic habit. Like that's how it is, right? So the problem is a lot of people think it has to be a big, bold action, but if you start with a small one that's manageable, everything else rolls smooth. Like that's kind of the idea. Everything else just rolls smooth. And most people, they start something and they stop it, but there's so much learned in the process of staying with the habit. So what I have noticed is whenever we get the ball rolling on something, when you set a habit and intention, and it's not a big one, but it's a small one, and I'm rolling, you're going to run into a point in time where I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I legit don't want to do this anymore. And so what I end up doing is saying, all right, well, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it today because I don't feel like doing it today. And then you do it, and what happens, you get a different chip on your shoulder, like a positive chip, like a pride, a little, like, I'm kind of good right now. I got through this thing. I don't want to do it. And if those consistently stack, that all of a sudden one day you'll wake up and be like, man, I've been showing up in ways I never did before. I got this sense of confidence. And you can take that confidence and apply it to something else. It's like getting, it's like making money, and then I can buy whatever I want. Like, when you're building up those little chips of confidence, you can take it and you can apply it to a new space, and it actually will work out well. So it's kind of a thing that for me, I try to get people to do, is like, it's not about taking a big, amazing, bold action of like, I'm going to start this today. It's like, what are you going to start that you can never stop?
I think it's the moment you start creating something that is so powerful that you don't stop it, then that's when immediately you start creating positive habits in your life. And it's the same with me. When I had to make a change in my life, it always came from small steps, big priority. And if I could just change one thing this week and make it the biggest priority, then that becomes a habit, and that becomes a positive reinforcement. So talking about, the minute you've decided that you was going to turn your dreams into reality and you was going to start putting the work in as a young person, and you said, that off season you become, the best person you could be, it was your ball that you was going to catch, you was always going to be the best version of yourself. And I love that, how positive you talked about how you're going to show up, and it was about you doing everything that you could in your power to become the best player. So talk me about your journey to the NFL, because I'm sure it wasn't just as you put the work in and then it all just magically fell into place.
NFL, man, that's an interesting monster. Because the NFL is this thing where I didn't actually try to get into the NFL. Most people, no, that's the wrong way to say it. I did once I realized I wanted to, but I wasn't growing up like, I want to be in the NFL like a lot of people are. I just grew up like, man, I want to not be in foster care. I want to do whatever the next thing I'm supposed to do is. And at one point, the next thing was the NFL. So when I got into college, man, I was a guy who came in, undersized, not a big name, just a dude. And I had to try to find a way to earn a spot on a Division I football team, the University of Oregon, right? That's a big deal. To this day, I think it's something that escapes me, like the level I actually played at, but it was a really high level. So I get to Oregon, and I'm this guy who I usually, most guys come in their freshman year, they do what's called red shirts. They don't play, they just practice. And I came in, I was like, nah, man, I want to play. So my first year I played, didn't play well. I mean, I got like some special team stuff. I did pretty good on special teams. But the next year, man, I had this battle, and the battle was between me and a fifth-year senior. And so what ended up happening was I got to this point where this guy who had been there for 5 years is his fifth year. It's my second year. We're battling for a spot. And it's a back and forth. And I'm not supposed to be playing, right? Because, I'm just a young guy. I've only played not even a full year. And after the training camp, I earned the spot. I started that next year, my very first collegiate start, man. I played against Mississippi State as a true sophomore, bro. I balled. I got a game ball. And it was funny, on that same day, national television first started game ball. I also met my real dad. I found him earlier in the year, and he lived nearby the first team I played. So he drove with the family to come visit me. So really cool situation. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where, like, it was this grind that, again, I kept stacking. So when you do that your sophomore year, you got to keep showing up. And so I kept showing up, and it was a long journey, man. I tore my shoulder, broke my wrist. It was this thing where, like, at one point I started questioning, like, is this football for me? My coaches told me I quit on them because I got surgery on my shoulder. It was weird. One of my coaches, like, I couldn't move my right arm. Legit, I couldn't, like, lift it up. I couldn't wipe my butt. I couldn't brush my teeth, dude. And I was like, Coach, I had to strap my arm to my body. I can't play with one arm. What linebacker do you know that has one arm? Like, that's kind of the crazy thing. And so I think for me, what happened was I got to this point where I realized over time, consistently, I was stacking these wins. And that kind of checked me out, but I kept showing back up. So I came back the next year bigger and stronger and faster, because I was not going to let this thing down. I wasn't going to go away, and then just always kept building. And so the journey to the NFL, that was when it was long, and it was, it was a lot of different headaches I had to deal with. But the thing is it's not so much that I was doing it because it was the next thing to do. I was doing it because I didn't want to let yesterday's anthem be down. Like, when you start stacking wins, it's not about the win that's coming up. It's about the wins that you've already won. and not letting those be in vain. So every day, even to this day now, I show up because I know what I've accomplished. And I know that when the situation meets me, I'm gauging it against, previous Anthony and whether or not I'm doing right by him from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? If I'm in front of a situation, opportunity, or whatever it is, like, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, not just because of the future, but because of the past.
What I've got from that there is your incredible self-awareness, the way you saw yourself as kind of also the ability to control your emotions as well. It's the fact that you've realized that there was probably amount of times that when you done your shoulder and your wrist that you could have just quit and walked away and said, yeah, you're right, people doubt me, this isn't for me. But you showed that self-awareness where you had to get stacked and you had to continue working, which is something that I think a lot of people may lack.
Like you said, consistent stack, bro. It's all nonstop.
And talking about going through those pains, those struggles of having those multiple injuries, how did you control your emotions in that time?
You don't know how. When you're a kid or you're young or you're even older and you haven't experienced them, and it's a really hard journey to figure out how do you go through the experiences, because you're being thrust into a situation with a lot of a high responsibility. I got a team. At the time, I had a child, but I'm a father. I have my high school sweetheart, so I'm a fiance. I got a lot, man, and I think that was the thing. There's all these pressures, and most people they like to avoid the pressure and find the peace. But I want to find peace within pressure. It's how I'm built at this point, and it wasn't something I was born with. It was something I built up over time. But like, where a lot of people are trying to avoid the pressure is what moves the needle for your life. The pressure is what creates those moments that you succeed. Like, I'm on a road trip right now across the country. My wife and I were just talking about this, like, on the drive yesterday. Like, we're in a good place. It's like, financially, I'm good. I do a job that I love. Like, I get to sit here and talk to you, people across the world I get to hang out with and meet. We bought a house as an investment property. My kids get to sit in the back seat and travel and roll. I don't have to be anywhere for work. Like, there's a lot that comes with this, but don't get me wrong. There's a lot of pressure I had to endure and experience to build this kind of business in life. There's a lot of pressure I deal with now in this life, right? Because it's all on me. I don't have a boss that I can go back to and be like, hey, boss, I'm going to take a little vacation and take a couple weeks off and still pay me. Like, it doesn't work. There's a great deal of pressure in this. However, because of how I operate and what I do, I got a lot of peace within that pressure. Because pressure is what creates stuff. And if you can handle it, you're great. But a lot of people want to avoid it. So like, when I was a kid, I say a kid in college, like, yeah, I mean, I could have gone the other route and checked out, and like, left my girl and started, doing dumb stuff and not been a present dad, and, and kind of like checked out of college, like in sports. But a lot of guys did, they got hurt. And next thing you know, like, they're just checked out. It wasn't me. I wasn't built for it. I always found ways to go back in and come back out better. And it was just this arduous process. And here's the thing that I do probably better than most people I know, is I can endure. Like, that's it. I just endure in ways that most people mentally don't comprehend. Now, I'm not saying I could be like a POW, a prisoner of war, but I'd like to see what it would be like if I could. Not that I really would, because I don't want to take some away from the guys who actually have done that. Those are some incredible men. But like, I think my head, my mentality could get through it. Because like, when I work out, I get to that crazy place that nobody else really gets to. And man, can I just operate at a level most people can't. And so that's kind of the thing that happens for me, is in a world of what I'm operating in, is like, I can go in and find that place and get to a level where I don't shut down, and I move and I flow and I grow. And that's something that I try to give to other people. And that's the only thing that comes from is just from leaning back into the crazy. Once you lean back in, you find that space, man, everything rolls smooth.
And do you think that, that ability to endure what you're going through and then thrive on the other side of it as came maybe from your adversity growing up as a child has maybe created this foundation of success for you?
Yeah, 100%. It's, there's no questioning, to be honest. The reason I am who I am is because of the crisis I experienced. There's a statement, a smooth sea makes not a skilled sailor. So essentially, like, a smooth sea doesn't make a good sailor. Because if you go into the seas and, and it's always easy, whenever a storm hits, you don't know how to handle it. And for me, at a young age, I managed those storms. Because when you get older and you haven't managed storms, you have more responsibility, which means you have more to lose whenever you fall apart. And whenever I had at a young age to navigate the hardships of emotion, of experience, of situation, of humanity. I mean, when I had to navigate all those things, dude, I'm telling you, it took so much of me to do it. However, it taught me this weird skill set. That's why I can endure, because I've already endured. I've gone through the muck. I understand what pain feels like and how to live with it in my gut. Whereas I don't think a lot of people learn to live with that frustration and that pain in their gut while trying to work towards something. And that, yeah, that's all childhood stuff. But at the same time, that's just one way that you can experience that feeling. Like the way I experience the feeling, it's relative to me. I mean, it could be your parents getting a divorce, and that could give you the same kind of feeling that I had. It doesn't matter what the action is; it's all a matter of how you feel it. And so I don't want people to sit there and be like, well, I didn't go into foster care, so I'm not going to be successful. Quite the contrary. Like, you'll be fine. But you got to lean into those things that are provided by life to you as amazing gifts of difficulty.
And, you know, when you talk about leaning into that moment, leaning into those things that always make you a better person, when it came to, you know, your career-ending injury, was that the same? Did you go through that with the same mindset, or did your mindset have to change because you knew that you couldn't go back to football? You had to maybe lean in to go to something else.
At the time, I didn't know it was over, man. When it was over, like when it was finally like, all right, I'm done with this, man. I cried. It was tough. That was like one of the most major identity crises of my life, because it was that thing I had worked for so many years was now gone, like ripped away from me. I one injury, done playing. And that's a hard thing. When you've spent all your life doing one thing and you're good at one thing, and one thing gives you pride and confidence, and it's taken from you, you don't have a base anymore. Your foundation's gone. Like, who was Anthony without football? What kind of husband is he without being able to provide for the family? What kind of, friend is he if he's, not the special friend that, oh, my guy plays the NFL? Who was Anthony with all these things dynamically going on and are not going on? And man, that was the big thing. And it happens if a mom sends her kid off to college. It happens when someone leaves the military. It happens when you sell your company, or you lose your job, or you change jobs. Like these happen all the time. It's like, or you break up, get a divorce. Your identity changes. Everything that was you is ripped away. And so in those moments when I lost myself, rightly so for a lot of us, we lose ourselves. It was just another one of those moments of life giving me a situation to navigate, of like, all right, man, how do you navigate this thing where you've lost you? You got to find you. And I did it wrong. I think that's the thing, is people don't grasp like until I tell them. Most people think like I've always been this. Oh, you just look like you've always had a happy life. No, like, dude, I didn't even really get settled until I was like 32.
Wow.
Like 32, man. That's when I kind of got settled. 32. I came back, NFL thing, did gym business. I opened up, and I was bad at the gym business because I came a little from that up, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was running around trying to figure things out. I had no clue how business works. I neglected my wife and ruined my marriage. She had an affair. I let the family apart. So now I got my kids not living with me for the first time in my life. I have 3 at the time now. Just a lot of crazy that was unexpected. And I literally broke my life, is what I'll call it. I got to the point where everything that made me was gone. I wasn't healthy anymore. My business sucked. I wasn't playing football. I wasn't married, and I wasn't a present father because I was, spending time in the gym trying to get this thing built up. So why be here? That was my thought. Like, why am I gonna, if this is life after the NFL, the peak of life supposedly, what the hell am I even gonna do? Like, what is this? I don't want this. That's my thought. I don't want this. That's not. This isn't fun, man. And I legitimately had so much pain and overwhelming pain one night. I drove off. Like I said, please tell my kids their father was. I just drove off, and I was looking for rat poison. I was like, it's gonna be, I'm gonna go ahead and check out. And thankfully, like, it was too late at night after this all took place, and I kind of had this wave subside, and then logic, peeked back in. I was like, this got to be more. There's got to be something more than this. Like, this can't just be it. This is ridiculous, because life is comprised of so many more things that can give you emotional joy and a feeling of just greatness. So, like, where do I go find that? And so that's what I did, man. I started trying to seek out what would make me happy. What could I do? And I reverted back to what I did when I was a kid, man. I just started working and creating. So I started figuring out, how do I create Anthony? And this is where my work and identity comes in. It's because I really had Like if you think about us as computers, like we're computers, how I look at us. We have this hardware of a body, but the software is our identity. And mindset's part of it, but most people think it's all it is, and it's not. It's what are your beliefs, thoughts, and actions? What are your habits consistently? What are the big actions you take? And where's your ego and your pride peak in, right? And mindset is a piece of that. There's people that have great mindsets who are still broken. So what I realized was like, I gotta upgrade this guy, because as a computer, eventually the software, it needs an update. That's why your computer tells you, hey, there's a new operating software. And then if you don't upgrade to it, the rest of the computer slows down. It doesn't function very well. The programs don't work. Well, in life, it's the same thing. And the update is somebody saying, hey, you need to get in better shape. Hey, you need to be more communicative. Hey, you need to go learn some more. Hey, you need to drop your ego. And you're like, snooze. I don't want to do it. Check me in 24 hours. You keep snoozing it. And then what happens is the program, which like your relationships and your health and your self-confidence, they start to bog down. And next thing you know, the computer crashes. You get that spinning wheel of death. The computer just bonks out. And that was kind of me at that moment in time. I realized like I had reached the outer limits of my operating systems. Like I was in, 2020 operating off Windows 95. I hadn't upgraded who Anthony was. And so what I did is I went in and I did what a computer does. I downloaded all the information I needed to download. So what a computer does, it downloads the new operating software information, and then it uploads it. And it takes time to do both of these. You got to sit there and wait. He tells you count in 23 minutes, and it's painful to wait. The time sucks. And that's the hard part in life too, having to sit back and let the time go by as you try to build yourself, and you read those books and you have the conversations, and then you wait to see like what you got to work on, or you see yourself for who you really are, because you download like, man, I need to be better. You download it, and then you upload it, right? That's the next piece is like you start to upload into your life the things you've learned. You start uploading into your life like the way I should start talking, the way I should exercise, the time I should carve out for people in my life. You start uploading into your life like the different actions that you weren't taking, the habits you should build. And the more you do that, the more you upgrade your operating system. And I think nowadays, when I look at the people I work with who are trying to make more money or, create more time with their family, or, have better work-life balance, it's not the books that you read. Like, it's not the course you took. Like, that stuff's going to help you. Information is great. But a lot of people don't realize if you don't operate as a good technician, like if you don't have the ability to operate as a whole, like an operator to control the function of a system in all areas of your life, in your health, relationships, in your wealth, in your career, and like in the moments that matter in life, if you can't operate in those, you'll always fall flat. So like it's a matter of upgrading your operating system so you can operate in those moments with all the information you've consumed already and will consume in the future. And so I'm always looking at the human being, like how does a human work? And these are the things that I did. I upgraded my system. And so when I go back, I actually was able to fix my marriage. We got divorced. 3.5 years later, got remarried. So we're back together now in an amazing, happy marriage, traveling the country with the kids. My businesses run smooth. Like I make great impact across the world, and I absolutely love what I get to do. I have kids that have a present father. I used to have my kids never see me. I'd be training at the gym all day. Now I'm home. Pick them up from school. I drop them off in the morning. Like I'm always there and present. I'm healthy. Like I have all the things that I before couldn't seem to get, no matter how hard I worked. And now in my life, I have it. And it's simply because I learned how to upgrade that operating system.
So knowing what you know now in regards to being able to be able to inform, download, and then update your operating system personally, I know from where I come from in the background that my sport is rugby union to be particular, and I know a lot of players in particular who their rugby, their athlete status is their identity, and many of them are forced with injuries where minute they go from being super high to being at their lowest moments. And knowing what you know now and the experiences that you went through when you had to retire due to injury, what would your one message be to those people who may find themselves in that same position?
Yeah, there's 3 words that I love to live by. It's a statement that makes sense by itself, but you separate it, it makes more sense. And the statement is own your shift. So own your shifts is essentially like it's extreme ownership of situations, right? That's really, it's own your stuff, right? But each word has its own power. Own simply means own that there's a problem to work on. Because when we come out of sports, we have these egos. We had to have them. And the ego becomes our greatest obstacle. Everyone's greatest obstacle, ego. And what happens is most people, they don't want to take the help or, think that I need to get any guidance. I used to play sports. Who are you? So, man, you got to own that there is some work to do, because that's the only way you'll give yourself permission to be better. And you got to give yourself a permission to do it in the public's eye, to learn, to grow. Like that's going to give you so much more, space. Now that you own there's a problem, you got to look at the word your means your worth. Like I can't fix your life for you. I don't care what you got going on. I can talk to you. You got to do the work. And so a lot of people realize it's a problem, but they won't own that it's their responsibility to work on it. It might not even be your fault. It could have been somebody else doing something to you, but it happened. Now it's your responsibility to work on it, whether you want to or not. Because if you don't, your life doesn't get any better. So own that you got to be the one to do this work, and then shift. The shift is its verb, right? The shift, perspectives, mindsets, actions, reactions, your heart, your beliefs, your thoughts, your actions. You get to shift these things. And that shift is the work I've been talking about this whole time. That's the work that we got to do. Now, unfortunately, some people know that they got to work on something. They know it's their responsibility, but they don't feel like doing it. So they don't. And life just slides downhill further and further. So for me, it's always a matter of going back in and like tell them, like, dude, now that you know there's a problem, now that you know there's a problem, let's go to work. Because the moment you start doing that work, the process leans in, and that whole thing I talked about is what you creates you. So any athlete listening who's like, what do I do? Own your shift. Get to the point of owning something to do. It's your responsibility, and then start that work, just like you do with sports. The problem is a lot of athletes, we struggle with finding ourselves again because we want to look at this tree we built. This amazing tree that's in this plot that's got fruit. That's amazing. We spent all our life doing it, from kids on up. We spent all this time doing this. And then we're like, all right, I want to do something else, like walking across town and planting a new seed for a tree. Well, you don't go across town, plant the seed, and all of a sudden the tree sprouts up into full bloom. That's not how it works. So we're trying to borrow this confidence and this ego and carry it somewhere else, and it doesn't work that way. You have to go across town and plant the seed and do the exact same like work to nurture and manicure this tree so it grows. You've already done it before because you did it across town in some other tree in a different area of your life, but you got to go now repeat that process, and you'll eventually get to the place of confidence like you have now in that new thing. And that's identity work. That's allowing yourself to go back to the basis and actually build from the bottom.
And I love that, own your shift. And also a big thing I took from there, in case you didn't hear, was the ego bit. Everyone's greatest obstacle. I love that. I've never heard that before. And I think it's something that, especially, myself, I've created as a young person. It was a case of that I had this ego, this reputation that I had to live up to. And it was always myself. It was always that was where I defined it as. But coming back to what you said then about, making the shift, and what was the shift that you made then to going on from kind of where your career ended to now being the incredible shift coach that you are now?
Honestly, I did the work, and then I unpacked the work, and then I made it make sense for the people. Shift work for me, it was kind of going back and unpacking, like I just talked about all the things. It was really just getting to the point of doing the work that scared me. We all know the things we're supposed to do. We all do. You should, apologize to your kids because you were a bad parent, or your wife because you did something stupid, or, you got to show up to work a little bit different and be like, look, I haven't been the best employee. What are your staff like? I haven't been the best boss. There's going to be areas that you really have to show up, and that first, level of shift is difficult because you're not used to the process of doing that, and it hurts. It sucks. It's a weird, icky feeling, right? No one in society wants to feel less than. And I think that people believe that because I admit a problem that I'm less than. It's the contrary, man. When you admit a problem, that means you're stronger than most people. And so when I went through my shift work, it was like, I need to shift in the areas that matter most to me. And for me, it was business, it was family, it was health, and in the moments. Most people lose sight of that. The business is business. I had to learn how business operated, man. I really had to figure it out. Because it's like 8 cop cars. There wasn't enough of my knowledge in business to be good in business. So I had to spend a lot of time and a lot of money really figuring out, how do I run a business? So that was a big piece of shift my perspective there of like losing it. I played the NFL. I know what I'm doing. Ego, had to get rid of it. And this is all, that the shifts happen in the 6 core drivers: your beliefs, thoughts, actions, habits, mindset, and pride. Those are the areas they work. And so that was the first part. Family, I had to be more present as a father and admit my fault as a husband. I was a neglectful husband. Wasn't the best dude as a husband. And I had to own that. So my wife had an affair, and it horribly broke me. Like, it really did. And she made a shitty decision, and she knows that. However, she got to a point where she even felt she had to make a decision with me. Like, we did it together. So I was part of the process to get her to a place to feel like she even needed to make a choice in the first place. And that's a tough thing to swallow, but it's reality. When you can own up to your situation, you can actually be better in those situations. And so there's a lot of growth that has to take place in that aspect. And I did that work. So did she. She did her own version of the work, right? And then for the health, I just needed to get healthy again. I need to take my health serious, because when you leave sports, it's hard to understand why I'm working out again. Like, I'm not going to play a game. I'm not practicing. Why am I going to go bench press? You know what I mean? Like, it's just aesthetic after a while. And then you're like, no, I want to feel good. I want to look good. I want to live for my kid. I want to be around my children to grow up. And I want to be able to beat them in the foot race, which my oldest, he's now faster than me. And then there's the last piece, which is really the one that matters the most, and it's the moments. And I tell people, mastering moments moves mountains in your life. Like, it's talking about moving mountains that are hard things. It doesn't happen when me and you are sitting here saying, Luke, we're going to do it today. I'm going to have a great day. We're going to make this happen. It happens the moment that something arrives to throw that off course. That's the moment that matters. What are you going to do when it actually has come to head? You got to determine, am I going to make this? Am I going to take this action? Am I going to let it pass me by? Am I going to cheat on my spouse or not? Am I going to take the opportunity or not? Somebody says something I don't like. Am I going to get mad, or am I going to get in my own head and figure out a solution that's going to be logical? Am I going to mess my life up? Am I going to slap my boss in the face and walk out? Like, how do you manage the moments? And for me, like, when I get to the root of it, that's one of the key parts of the work I do too, is like teaching people how to master the moments of their life. Because when you can do those things, everything blossoms. Your business thrives. You make more money. You have more joy at home. You're healthier. You're happier. And these are not things that are flukes. It's not like an accidental thing. And what's even better is in the beginning, it's like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. At the end of the work we do, this is who you are now. And that's what I call effortless effort. Because who you are and who I am right now, we can do this effortlessly. It's just who we are now. Now, people looking at you and be like, dude, how do you get all that done? How'd you get some guy to have a podcast with you in the middle of his road trip and across the pond over in America? How did that happen? I don't know. I just sent him a message. You know what I mean? It's just, you just would throw it off. I don't know. I just asked him. Like, that's just what it would be. Somebody else like, oh, that's a lot. That's the separation between a lot of people. I call it identity gap. The gap between who you are in your peak operation and then who you are in your low operation. And most people think they're at their peak operation when really they're at their low. And it's hard to fathom anything above that. And so whenever you get to that stuck point, and someone's in that area there, that's the upgrade takes place, the shift, that person, it's just like rolling. And that's how you build that human, man. That's how I got to how I am. That's the shift that I did to be who I am now.
Master the moment, move mountains. Love that. And one of the quotes that I've heard you speak about before that I really fell in love with was, the greatest views in life are reserved for those who want to make the climb.
Yeah.
So how does first of all someone see the mountain and see the view, and then how do they start? How do they begin to make the climb?
Yeah, my world, the work I do is it's steeped in very basic foundational systems, frameworks. And for me, I don't like to wing things. And I realize there's 3 specific steps called the shift method. What I'm talking about in this shifting aspect, it sounds quippy and it's cool, right? But the reality is a process to it. And the method I've created is called the shift method. So what we do is, the first thing most people don't realize, you have to see the problem. And this, most people be like, okay, I get that. No, you don't get it. Like that's the problem. Most people think they get it and they don't. So what they do is they start doing work. Because the 3 steps are see, shift, sustain. The shift is the work. The shift is like, we already talked about this, the shifting work. And what happens is people jump right to that, start doing the work, building things up, and then realize, like, I'm never going to get there. They don't arrive at their destination. It's because people, like, they climb a ladder, get to the top of the ladder, and realize, oh, the ladder's leaning against the wrong building. This isn't where I wanted to go. This isn't where I needed to go. I needed to go in that building. That's where the gold's at, So we go back to the C work. And the C work is part of what I've been talking about. You have to see the things that you don't want to see that really are the reason you're not doing well. It's the first part. Second part is when you've alleviated the failure feeling. You've alleviated the I suck, and you've got past the point of like, okay, now I really see what I got to do. Now you get to dream at full speed. That seeing the mountain portion, I call it dreaming at full speed, because if you think about a car in a desert driving down like this open path, cherry red Ferrari with the drop top, and it's rolling down a open desert space, it's all cool. you get that heart pumping like, ooh, it feels good, feeling like, I'm excited. That same feeling comes with great ideas. You can't wait to see what's going to take place. And it's going to be so cool. You tell your friends about it and all this, right? But imagine driving that Ferrari and all of a sudden in the middle of the desert, there's a speed bump. You got to slow down. You got to go over the speed bump, or like a retaining wall. You got to go around the retaining wall and like get it to steer clear of it, right? And what happens is people, they put speed bumps in the way of their dreams because I grew up a foster kid, or I don't have enough money for that, or I don't even know anybody, or how would I even, no one's going to listen to that. What if they make fun of me? So this dream you had, you're killing it by putting speed bumps in the way. And so you're not dreaming at full speed. So for me, what I do with people is I teach them how to go through a process of removing the failures they've had in the past, and reframing failures, and how to open up perspectives for dreams you've never even laid into before. And that's how you start the process. You see what you got to see. And then the next thing is you shift. And shift is, it's really basic. It's design, develop, deploy, debrief. And what I mean by that is I'm an ideal identity guy. So I talk about identity, right? So with the shift method, the shift is taking you to what I call an ideal identity. Like there's a perfect identity for what you want to do. Ideal means perfect. You want to be a great podcast. There's an identity you need to be to do that. The confidence you have to have. The things you have to learn, like the technology pieces, the how to interview pieces. There's part of it's got to be just you to do it. Then it becomes a good flow. You can hop on and talk. Part of my identity is being an interview guest. Like I'm good at these things. I do them all the time, right? Part of my identity. I'll openly say I kill it on podcasts. I have a blast to do it. So how do you get there, right? Well, I first have to architect an identity. Then I have to activate the identity. I got to build it. Then I got to put it into the world. And as a process, I design the ideal identity. Is a structure of what I go through to actually design that identity. Then I develop a plan to make that identity come to life through actions. Like I said before, actions are the only thing. Actions end suffering. So I develop a plan that I can put in place to where if I work it, some are big actions, some are the consistent, easygoing ones, to where eventually I can look at it again. If I did that over time, I'd be like, man, that's who I am, right? That's the goal. Then now that I have that plan, a lot of people are good with vision boards and they sit in their nice planner. And then Monday comes and they don't get nothing. They get nothing. They get what they call jack all or something done. Nothing gets done. Like, why didn't you do it? Well, I got this happened because they're not operating. They're not at peak operation. They haven't closed that gap. They did the planning and it feels good, but they didn't deploy it into the world out of fear, of judgment, or whatever it was. It came and reared its head again. So I'm big on deploy this into the world, have action days, start the process, do things, and you'll go out and odds are you're going to fall flat on your face. It's going to happen. You're going to have this moment where you just realize I suck. And what happens in those moments is most people come back. They don't want to feel that pain of sucking again. So they bottle up, they tuck away, and they don't reinvest themselves into it. And they walk away and they find a really good excuse to not have to do that thing again. And what I do is say, all right, if you were in the military and there was like a battle going on, if you wouldn't got put out in the battlefield, you come back. What do? They debrief you. What happened? What didn't work? Why didn't it work? Okay, cool. Let's redeploy. So what we do is we come back, we debrief. What worked? What are the beliefs that you have? Why are they not working? What happened here? Unpack it all. And now we can go back in and say, all right, let's redesign the plan. Let's see if we try something different or try to get the same. And you go back and do it again. And you redevelop, redeploy, debrief, and it keeps going through the process. And like I said early on, what you create creates you. This is the creation process. See, most people will try something. It's a 10 of pain. This is difficult. I don't want to do this. They walk away. Well, they don't realize if you go back and do it again, you now know something more than you knew the first time. Now it's a 9. It still sucks, but it's a 9. It's a little bit less pain. And it's an 8, and it's a 7, and most people aren't crazy enough to keep insert themselves into a situation that sucks. And so what they do is they eventually get to this point that it's like, I don't want to do it, and they check out. But for me, I endure. So I go back at 7, 6, 5. Here's the cool part. When it gets to 0, it's not that you're doing that thing and like there's no more pain. You're doing that thing and you have joy. Like, Luke, you got joy. You know what I mean? Like, you doing this right now, I'm sure the first time you're like, I'm going to go and do a podcast with somebody. You're like, I don't know, man. I'm going to see if it works and I don't want to mess it up. And oh my gosh, all right, they're about to be on. What do I say? Hey, this is Luke. Like it came out like it's the first one. But later on, you're like, no, this is who I am, man. After a while, the thing that scared you You find joy in it. Like I love getting on and talking to cool people and meeting individuals and sharing it with the world. I love it. And that's what people don't realize they're missing out on. You're missing out on the countdown from 10 to joy because you didn't reinvest yourself in the process that we go through. And the back end of it, the last stage is sustaining. People sometimes have success but don't know how to sustain the passion, the direction, the vision. And so I call it drive, hive, and thrive. I want to see, like, when you're looking at the process of building your life, you got to check in, like, am I driving in the right direction consistently? Am I still going where I planned on going? Am I still keeping traction? Is it still moving? Hive, do I have the people around me, like a beehive to create, like, honey sweet, a life that's sweet as honey? Do I have the wife and husband and kids that I want? Do I have, the job I like? Do I have friends that are happy about? Do I have supportive colleagues? Do I have a mastermind group to lean on? Do I have a hive of people that make my life amazing? Because life is supposed to be lived in relation to humans. We're built that way. And then thrive. I like to look at my life as a level of, I do great things, so I can give great things. And I think a lot of people get to a point where they're not realize that you're not succeeding just so you can succeed. You're succeeding so you can help others succeed eventually. Because there's nothing better than succeeding and then help other people. Because, like, when I do well, when I succeed, what ends up happening for me is like, all right, I feel good, but I want to feel better. How do I feel better? Like, if I make more money, like, am I going to feel better? I can buy another car, or I can invest in a home. That's not giving me the joy I'm seeking. And I look at it kind of like some marginal utility. Once I've had, like, if I have 10 hamburgers in front of me, after the first, like, 3 or 4, I'm full, I'm stuffed. I can't feel any better from this hamburger personally. But if I give it to somebody else who's starving, I feel good. Like, yeah, here's a hamburger, man. Like, Luke, here's a good, nice, In-N-Out burger. Enjoy, right? You feel better. That's thriving. To thrive at a level where I can give back. And once you do that, it opens you up to new areas that you can be better in. And the process continues. Now I got to see the things I don't see so that I can go to the next level of shifting to go to the next tier to serve. And then the process rolls on.
And I wanted to say, before I ask my final question, I just want to say a massive thank you and also take a moment out to acknowledge you. I just want to thank you again for making this podcast work, especially in the beautiful location you have behind you. But also I want to thank you for sharing your struggles. For me, this episode has been a real learning experience. The fact that your current circumstances in life doesn't have to equal your conclusion. And I think that's exactly what you've done. The fact you've been able to go through what you have, to endure your experiences and still come out on the other side, but also to come out to be in a position where you can give to others is incredible. And I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me. And, truly I'm blessed to have spent this time with you.
Very welcome, man. Happy to join you. Appreciate it.
Before I ask you my final 5 questions, where can people find you on social media if they want to find out more about Anthony Trucks and get involved with and making the shift happen?
Yeah, at Anthony Trucks. Simple on Instagram. Or go to anthonytrucks.com.
Perfect. I'll make sure all the links for Anthony are down below in the show notes. Please do go check it out because this guy does have some incredible content that you really need to do a big part of your social media library as you scroll through your phones and through your websites in the mornings. But before I finish up this incredible interview, Anthony, I always finish off with something called my final 5, which are 5 rapid fire questions just to bring together and close this awesome interview. These are short, quick fire questions. Hopefully we'll get through it and we'll get some good answers.
Nice.
Perfect. So the first question, Anthony, is what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my family, man, and all being back together.
And number 2, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. It takes a little more to be a champion. That's one that always sat with me from my college coach. Because whenever you feel like you've done enough, the champions are ones that do a little bit more when they don't want to do it. And that's always stretched me every workout, every day. Like, do a little bit more than most, and it stacks.
No, I completely agree. The one more theory, as I like to call it. Always do that one extra rep, that 1 extra minute of reading. That's it. Yep. Number 3, if you could go back and share one message that you know now to yourself as a young person growing up, what would that message be to that young person?
Take bigger, bolder actions earlier. When you get older, like, you got kids and you got a family, you can only take so many big risks, So I would have taken some crazier risks earlier.
And question number 4, what is something that we can all do right now to make the shift in our lives?
Honestly, own up. Like, drop the ego. and take in the insight that the people in your life have been telling you that you keep trying to avoid. The moment that you own it is the moment you give yourself permission to work on it. It's short-lived pain for long-term joy.
And last and finally, question number 5, one of my favorite questions that I like to ask, and that is to you, Anthony. What does believing in yourself mean to you?
Man, it means everything. If I don't believe in me, nobody else will. I mean, other people might, have faith in me and trust that I can do it. But if I don't believe in me, no dream I have come to fruition. If I don't have belief in myself, every dream will die.
Thank you for listening to another incredible episode of the Believe in Yourself podcast. Please do make sure you leave a like, you subscribe down below, and check out our most recent episode right by here. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below of what was your biggest takeaway from this incredible podcast.